What's going on, y'all? KM Best here. Let's take a look at Marvel Snap's newest card, the amazing Gwenpool. Gwenpool is a 4/6 with the ability to pick a random card in your hand 3 times and give those cards +2 power. This means if you have 1 card in your hand, she's going to give that card +6. If you have 2 cards in your hand, she's going to pick randomly between them, meaning one could get all 6, the other one could get 0, or it could be 2/4, however you want to think about that. And of course, with 3 cards in hand, it will be again picking randomly. Now, on base, Gwenpool is a 4/12 as long as you are able to play other cards out that you are buffing with her. However, being able to be played on turn 4 is actually not all that great for a card like this, because it only gives you 2 turns in order to play out the cards that got buffed. For this reason, most Gwenpool decks run at least 1, usually more, cards that are able to carry one of her buffs easily. There is one notable exception to this. The best cards to use with Gwenpool are cards that use her buffs well. I realize that sounds a little obvious, but it's true. Of those, I think the most important is probably Mysterio, who will carry the buffs in a very unique way. If Mysterio gets +2 power, so do the Mysterio clones. So one Gwenpool proc on Mysterio turns it from a 0, a 4, and a 0 to a 2, a 6, and a 2. 2 Gwenpool procs on Mysterio, suddenly you're looking at a 4, an 8, and another 4. That's Dr. Doom levels if you're able to pull it off. Mysterio is a very strong card already. There's some interesting things you can do with that. In addition, Gwenpool seems to be functional in a Patriot or Surfer archetype because of the ability to hit something like Brood. Being able to hit Brood is much the same as Mysterio. You hit Brood twice, suddenly they are 6 power Broods, that's 18 power, just dropped into a lane out of nowhere. You can also hit things like Absorbing Man copying a Brood. You can even use Absorbing Man to get multiple Gwenpool procs. There's a lot to be done with that. In addition, let's talk tertiary targets. Tertiary targets would be like, okay, I don't have the things that are really good with Gwenpool, but like Sebastian Shaw can be a good hit. Things of that nature. Things like Mr. Sinister. It's not like you're number 1 on the list, but you'll see it in some Gwenpool decks because it's pretty good when it happens. Now, issues with Gwenpool are mostly related to the metagame as a whole, which is to say, Arishem is kind of running roughshod over things, and Gwenpool in a normal metagame is honestly probably pretty good, but right now, it's hard to get her decks up to the power level of what Arishem is capable of doing. This means that many Gwenpool decks are going to be pigeonholed into running tech that actually is needed to beat Arishem, and it also means that we might not be able to see what she could do if she didn't have to run that tech. With all of that said, let's get into the 4 decks that I use to climb to infinite with Gwenpool. This was the first deck I tried with Gwenpool, where I was just trying to see how good she was on her own, just as a card that has some real high rolls here, but wasn't married to the high rolls. I felt that the conflict between her and Ravona was awkward enough that I ended up not liking her here, but at the same time, every time I didn't draw Ravona, she was actually genuinely fantastic. And I do think that there might be something here legitimately if I wasn't forced into being a Ravona deck because I want to be a Darkhawk Mystique deck, and if I'm going to be a Darkhawk Mystique deck, I have to be a Ravona deck, and that's all Arishem's fault. Like, I really kind of believe that if Arishem wasn't around, there would be some sort of Gwenpool, Mysterio, Mockingbird, Sasquatch thing happening right now. It would be meaningfully powerful, I think. And I think that especially it would give this deck, if you just imagine the metagame we had before Arishem, everyone was playing Mobius in order to deal with the fact that this deck was such a massive discounter with Ravona. Being able to be like, look, it's fine. I don't actually need the discounts. I'm just going to drop a bunch of power on you, and that's going to work just as well. I think that would have been a really powerful angle, but everything has been sort of blown out of whack by the existence of Arishem, which necessitates me being a Mystique deck, being a Darkhawk deck, being a Rockslide deck, and sort of cannibalizes a lot of the slots that I want to use. Another consequence here is that I have to be a Hope Summers deck, right? Because I am trying to beat Arishem decks with my endgame of Darkhawk Mystique, and that means that I'm going to want that extra energy so I can do that on the final turn of the game, right? I need that Hope Summers in here. So effectively what's happening is this deck has dedicated 4 whole slots to the Arishem matchup, and because of that, it isn't able to leverage Gwenpool the way I would really want it to. I think there is almost certainly something good to be done with Gwenpool and Mysterio and Mockingbird. It's just a shame that Arishem puts you in these such intense do they have it or don't they have it thing with your Darkhawk, where you just kind of have to do it. You pay the Arishem tax just to be a deck, and it's very frustrating. So after I tried out the Ravona shell, I thought, what if this card is just second Loki? So I don't have Loki, but I have like Quinjet and some cards I've randomly generated, and I'm just gonna play this and like play for stats. And it genuinely was not that bad. Like, it's obviously in the matchups where Loki is good, it's not better than Loki, right? That's pretty clear, right? Like, when you play Loki for the matchups where Loki is good. In the matchups where Loki isn't good, this actually felt like a meaningful addition. And again, I think a lot of the blame on why I don't like this as much falls on Arishem, because against Arishem, Loki's amazing, and so you want to double down with that on a Blink thing. There's not a lot of Mobius running around. It's fine, right? Like, I think Gwenpool is actually just, like, pretty good, and she's one of those cards that I do feel like is going to be a good, like, 11th or 12th card in a bunch of different decks. Like, you will be able to do this, but that time is not now because of how incremental she is, and how hard it is to be an incremental card in a metagame where the best deck is this ramp into 20 power blob into a bunch of stuff, right? It's hard to be an incremental mid-range card when you're not that. And so that is the conclusion I came out of with Loki, which is like, in a different metagame, I actually think you could probably just jam Gwenpool into here. You could jam Gwenpool into a bunch of stuff. But in this metagame, I do feel like she ends up falling a little bit short. So this list was cooked up by Yo Woody, and it attempts to answer the Arishem question by A, just running Darkhawk Mystique, because sure, why not? And B, just having a lot of points. I don't necessarily think, like, again, one of the things that I hear a lot about is, like, people saying, like, okay, this isn't how this deck should be built, but it is how we have to build the deck right now for Arishem. If you start seeing a lot less Arishem, I would love to drop the Darkhawk stuff out of here. I would absolutely love it. I would love that to happen. But as is, I'm not really sure that's a viable strategy. The Darkhawk ends up being pretty important because otherwise we are roughly unable to compete with that deck. And I gotta tell you, it did sort of feel like Gwenpool in here was actually quite good, but the threat she created was much stronger than she actually ended up being a lot of the time. Which is to say, both playing with and against this deck, I felt a lot more fear when my opponent played Gwenpool than I realized I should have been feeling when I played the deck and I played my own Gwenpool. I felt a lot of fear. It's like, oh, think about what could be in there. But it is very random. And I do feel like there is something to be said for maybe when people are playing Gwenpool, you just need to call. You just need to be like, I got this. It's fine. It's going to be okay. And just go for it like that. That might be the thing you need to do. I haven't fully thought through that dynamic. I think that if you want to try something unique with Gwenpool that is built around Gwenpool, this is the most interesting and promising, but it does have this thing where it's like, okay, I have to sacrifice for the Arishem matchup. You can also try to be a Surfer deck. Maybe you play Surfer with Darkhawk instead of doing this Patriot stuff with Darkhawk. I'm not entirely sure, but I do think that right now there probably is something in the Brood Gwenpool area that will end up being fairly relevant. I do think she ends up being a good card in that archetype. If you asked me, like, you forced me to give you an answer, I would say I think she's going to be good there long term. So we come down to it. This was by far the best deck I played with Gwenpool, and everyone just turned the video off. Arishem is quite absurdly strong. There's really no two ways about it at this point. I think that this is an extremely strong card, and the way it forces the metagame to warp based on what does and does not end up beating it is quite, I won't go so far as to say toxic, but I'll say unpleasant. When I played this list, I felt like I had answers to everything everyone was doing to try to beat Arishem. I flexed in a Valentina over the Echo that is more traditionally run here, because I wanted to just test out Valentina. One thing I get a lot of questions on is, why are you not playing Quinjet? I just do not think Quinjet is good in Arishem. I think it's solving for the wrong things right now. When I draw one of my own cards, I want it to be one of the ones that really matters. I'm not starving for the ability to play cards here. I'm starving for Darkhawk in Mirrors and Blob and Mystique in matchups against anyone who's trying to beat me. I want those cards, right? And while there is like a bit of a downswing here where it's like, okay, so after Darkhawk and Rogue and Shang and Blob and Mystique, what else do you want in the matchup? You want Loki, sure. Okay, so after all of those, that's when you want Gwenpool, right? Like that's sort of the thing, right? She ends up being like a genuinely good card in this because, as it turns out, playing this card on 3 is actually kind of messed up, even if you don't have any things to carry that buff. It just ends up being, you know, a 4/6 that you played on 3, and you're gonna play out the cards because you have infinite energy to do it. And if you don't play out the cards, it's because you're doing something even stronger. So I wouldn't be shocked if she ends up being good here, but I will caution you, I find her extremely replaceable in this deck because of the way that she's like the, what, 8th most important card in the deck, and you're not really, like, none of your cards, bar the super important mirror breaking ones, or the ones that break the counterplay against you, like Eliath or Blob into Mystique, none of them are gonna be, she's not gonna ever be more important than those, because Arishem is defined by the counterplay to it. And so breaking that counterplay is the most important thing you can do, basically across the board. Every card that I listed is good for reasons like that. Like your Darkhawk is good into their Arishem because it's huge. Your Blob and Mystique are good into their Darkhawk. Your Shang-Chi is good into their Darkhawk. Your Rogue is good into their Darkhawk, right? Like all of that stuff circles out through there. Loki gives you a mulligan. And then if you don't have any of that stuff, then you're a Gwenpool deck. It does sort of really fall down in the priority order because of just how inbred this metagame is right now. I do think that Gwenpool ended up being a little bit interesting to me, but I also think that this might not be the time for her because of the power of decks like this. So, should you buy Gwenpool? My instinct is that this will end up being a good purchase as long as we assume that Arishem is not the new normal. I think Gwenpool's going to end up being sort of similar to Iron Lad long term, which is to say it's going to have a home, it's going to be a fairly specific home, but that home is going to be like something that has the potential to be actually very good. And I think Gwenpool Iron Lad's like a fairly reasonable comparison to make, because when I think about recent cards that came out, right, I called Nocturne the Jeff of 3-drops, right? But being the Jeff of 3-drops is worse than being the Jeff of 2-drops. And I think that is because it's easier to play a 2-drop in more decks, right? Like, there are more decks that want to play a 2-drop. There's less good ones, right? Being the Jeff of 4-drops, which I do think is genuinely possible for this card. I don't think it's a likely outcome, but I do think there's a world where it's just like how the Ravona package was, there's like a Gwenpool package with Mysterio, right? I can believe that because it's just such a genuinely powerful thing to do. However, and this is important, she's not able to do that right now. Those decks, the decks that she would be able to do that in, are so wrapped up in how the hell do I beat Arishem, because anyone playing incrementally against the deck that is curving Leech into Blob into Mystique Mockingbird is just gonna end up SOL. And that, I think, is why you're going to see a lot of content creators saying, this is mid, this is a pass. I think this is a solid card. I think this card will have a time to shine. I could be super coping, but I am genuinely kind of impressed with this card being like a reasonable thing. It might end up being nothing, but right now I would say I am more on the side of this will eventually be a good card than not. However, right now, Arishem is a vastly higher priority, and any of the good cards in Arishem are a vastly higher priority. The only thing hanging over you is the looming potential for a nerf. based on the insane play rate and very strong win rate of that deck. All that being said, Gwenpool is a season pass card. For those who are unaware, buying the season pass is arguably the single most cost-efficient thing in the entirety of Marvel Snap. There is almost nothing ever better that is going to be better value than simply purchasing the season pass. No bundles will ever go on sale that have a better value. No way of spending money is ever going to be better than buying the season pass. And so I think if you're someone who is a sometimes season pass buyer, I think that this would be worth picking up. However, if you're someone who is a normal season pass buyer, yeah, no, just go ahead and get the season pass. She's definitely not bad enough for you to avoid the season pass. I can promise you that. She is very, very interesting. And I do think that she's likely to end up with a sort of Iron Lad-ish place in the metagame, which, for the record, is fairly limited. I think a lot of people think of Iron Lad as this very flexible card. He's really not. He kind of only goes in like Patriot stuff. It's possible that she ends up in the same sort of thing where it's just like, this is a good card in her specific archetype, and I think that's probably going to end up what's going to happen with her. I do think it's worth picking up the season pass. I always kind of do, but we have had far worse season pass cards than Gwenpool. All right, y'all, I hope that was helpful. It's always tough to do early reviews based on like a climb to infinite. It's definitely like a huge, awful kind of thing to do because I feel so much responsibility for anyone who like may make a poor financial decision based on my word. I really try very hard to make sure that these are up to the standard so you understand exactly where I'm at with the card, but there is a fundamental limitation of time here. I played for about 7 or 8 hours with Gwenpool. The Arishem deck was by far the best one. I think I've given you the information you need to make an informed decision, and I hope for the best in terms of you making that decision. As always, I've been KM Best. Let's jump into a little bit of gameplay, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, we drew her. And Mysterio. This is it. We did it. We're gods. We're god gamers. This is the nuts. We're about to get the biggest Mysterio of all time. That's honestly kind of scary. Okay. 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 Oh my God. Okay. So we get 8 Mysterio here. 4s everywhere else. Next turn, we get Mockingbird, Kitty Pryde, Iron Man, right? God. disgusting gaming happening here. So what's the move? Mockingbird, Iron Man, Kitty Pryde. Yeah, that's the move. Okay. Well, that is a nightmare hit. Oh, God. Hey, maybe that's something good. That is something good. I love that. Oh, wait, I can't do anything with it. Fuck. Shit. That is just a 4-cost bird there, so they float 1 here at least. That's fine. Maybe it's not fine, actually. I don't know. We'll play it out. Strong guy. Domino. Domino. We win. We win, yeah. Look at us. Look at us. Is it the Ravona deck? Wait, is my thing not up? What the hell? Sorry. Okay, this hand blows. I just lost 8 to a bot. I lost 8 to a Hella Gamer. That's basically the same thing. Okay. Being net decked? Filthy. Does this make any sense? I have no idea. It did make sense. We're geniuses. So I think now the question is Ravona or some other shit. Is it still worthwhile us being a Ravona deck, or should we play Korg, is I think the question I'm arriving at. I shouldn't have played that. I hate this. The one time hitting Mysterio is bad. Watch out for the Hobgoblin. I'm watching out. My out is being watched. Oh, my shit can't beat this. They're like 40. Might be able to do like some sort of Iron Man Mystique bunch of shit play that wins both lanes. Not sure. Okay, no. I don't think so. And then this just takes us to 40, which is pretty good. Generally, I like being at 40. Yeah, like, there's a Loki deck, right? Not loving this. I'm gonna stick in. I don't think it's necessarily the right call, but it's a very interesting. Nobody expects a Darkhawk if they snap me. Nobody's like, I'm getting Darkhawked out of this deck. It would probably not be worth putting Psylocke in there. Our worst pull. Love that. Not a bad hit. Chef Daredevil. Okay. So the Supergiant thing is a 2-drop? Just a solid 2? Sure. Pretty sure I'm dead. What was that order, dude? All right, I'm gonna go pee. What the fuck? Suggestion. Skill diff, honestly, real. Yeah, literally just add cards. I don't know why people are jumping around and pretending other shit to do. Literally just add cards. It's fine. Damn, son, where'd you find this? Wait a minute. 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 I'm just so afraid of getting Darkhawk is the thing. Like, we could snap Prof, but if we get Darkhawk, it's demon time for them, right? This sucks. I hate it. Oh, Profex is safe, guys. Profex is safe. I hate you guys so much. What I'm afraid of is getting my own fucking thing Eliath here. I'm about to get my Captain Marvel Eliath here. That's their Eliath, so they would have had to get mine. Okay. Haha! We did it! Surprised they left. They literally knew we had it. I don't think there was a world where they didn't leave there. Oh, you'll regret that. Yep. So this is... You leave. And then we go for a big pass, right? Damn. That was kind of scary. But my 3 blobs saw me through. I don't know why they played the null in the middle. If they played the null on the Iron Man, we die. Wait. What are they playing? Negative. Holy fuck. That's crazy. Sorry, Caps. Yeah, damn, Woody. Fucking get off my dick. Alright, I'm not gonna lie to you, chat. Whoa. Okay, I guess I'm getting whatchamid here. Oh. Oh, Jesus Christ. Why not give them Val? Because I accidentally, I'm gonna be real with you, I thought it was the other one. I was like, oh, it's the castle, and I thought it was the other castle. That's the honest answer. Maybe there's a randomly generated Mobius in here or something. Christ almighty. Synergy. They just drew every card in their deck. Chat, is that bad? Is it bad that they drew every card in their deck? Can someone tell me if that is bad? Oh, wait, hold up. Hold on. Where are we alive? You think they throw mid? You want to null Mystique? Let's fucking go! Let's fucking go! Oh, shit! Let's fucking go! I wouldn't say necessarily she just happens to do that, but it is what she does. The Collector. That Modok kind of whips. Oh, I should have been midding. You're right. Man, they played around it. That's a swarm. Dracula gone, Blob gone, Swarm at 7. Swarm at 3. Fortis Lake. Okay, we should win. No. Gene is why that we're very good here, right? It's basically entirely down to the middle, but they actually had no winning plays other than not playing anything middle. Like, they see this happening, right? They know I have one. Simply Uber, thank you for the tier 1. I appreciate it. I don't get to do anything until I know if they are or are not running Darkhawk, unfortunately. Okay. Probably should have snapped. Definitely can't now. Shang-Chi's fake. What if he's real? So we're 17 on the right. Okay. Okay. I don't think I can lose from here. Oh yeah, no way. Oh yeah, no way.